So next we're going to take off the shank right here, and then we're going to split the leg and the sirloin into separate parts. So we start with just finding the kneecap, which is right here. It's kind of hard, bony bit that protrudes a little bit just above the shank, which is this piece right here. And right above there, there's a little fleshy part, which is actually a tendon. So you can run your knife through the tendon and then circle the leg with the knife, which I'm just going to show you right now. So you run your knife through the tendon at the front, and then you just kind of bring your knife down to the table, turn the whole thing over, and do the same thing on the other side. Now if you can't find the join exactly, you can bring the piece of meat to the edge of the table and bend it, and the join will just open itself up, and you can finish running through with the knife. So with the shank here, you can either keep it as one and kind of braise the whole thing, or you can just bone it out here. I think we're going to bone it out.
Probably just bone it out, yeah. You also, if you had a bandsaw, this is the bandsaw free method that we're going to show you. We can buck this up, and it would be what we call ossobuco cut, which is a lovely stewing shank recipe.
The next thing I want to do is take off the sirloin. That's this piece of meat that just protrudes from the top of the leg. There is a seam in here. It's a bit of a nightmare to find. The best way to actually do it is just to run your knife straight along the top of the leg. And then here, you gotta clean it up a little bit. Take this out. The actual sirloin itself has got a few slash marks in it, but it's definitely salvageable. So we get rid of that. And this here is a really nice steak.
Beautiful steak.
Yeah.
So these bits and pieces that we cut off here, some of this stuff, we'll get rid of the tallow here, and then I'll trim that up, and this will become either hamburger or in my stew meat pile. And so I got a couple piles going for stew and for burger, and then of course the cuts that we're going to wind up wrapping up and put in the freezer. So this is one of them.
And this is the cap of the sirloin, so this sits right on top of the sirloin, and it's actually generally a little more tender. And so you just want to kind of leave a little bit on, but you don't want a ton.
A little bit of that fat's kind of nice because I mean it's such a dry. I mean generally the game is so lean that a little bit of fat's nice for the cooking, but then again you got to balance out the flavor.
And that's pretty good.
And elk and moose are actually have much milder fats, so you can get away with leaving a bit more. And whereas deer, generally speaking, is a more pronounced flavor.
Okay.
So as you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and start cutting these into steaks because these are nice little chops that I'm going to call rump chops or rump steaks. And I'm just going to cut 1-inch steaks.
Okay.
So nice like that, right?
Yeah, really good. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm just taking apart the leg. Now, this is the bottom of the leg bone here, this is the top of the leg bone, and you can actually see a seam running from the bottom to the top. So you just kind of try and open it up along that seam. And there it is. Once you've found it, that seam will run right down to the bone. So you can actually take the muscle off in separate groups without damaging it. And then what we want to do essentially is just keep your knife right along the bone there and just lift out the leg bone, just like that. Then you lift the leg bone up, get your knife underneath it, run it through. Now the thing you want to be careful of when you come in at the bottom is the kneecap is typically left in the meat here. So that's this little bit here. So you make a V-shaped cut and just pull up the kneecap. A lot of people miss that and it goes into the grinder and that causes all sorts of problems. Alrighty. So next thing we're going to do here is separate the leg out. And again, we're looking for these seams through which we're going to run a knife. And we got one right here. And these muscles are called the rounds. There we go. So that one there is called the inside round because it's on the inside of the leg.
So what would we typically do with this inside round?
This one you can turn into steaks. I mean, it's a little big. You might want to do a roast.
Yep.
It's a very lean piece of meat. If you have a slicer, it makes good rouladen. But if you make it into roast, you want to bard it, which is injecting fat into it or cover it with bacon or something like that.
A lot of game meat. I mean, I use a lot of extra fat when I'm cooking with game meat.
Yeah.
So I mean, bacon is a deer's best friend, really.
For sure.
So as he's cutting away here, I'm just gonna. What I'll be doing is I'll be taking a look at this, trying to decide if I want to make it into a roast or some steaks. So what I'll do is I'll just trim it up a little bit. Now that looks like a nice steak. I'll probably take a few steaks off it. I try to keep my steaks between 3/4 of an inch, about there. That's looking pretty good. I mean, I mean, it's nice to have. I got lots of roast in the freezer right now with my elk, so I'll just go ahead and make this into some steaks.
So one tip is I've got a bunch of sinew and stuff running through the middle of it, so it needs a little bit of work before it's edible. And then this here, the outside around, you want to take this silver skin off here, so you want to run your knife just underneath, but angled up away from the meat, and you can see the angle of the handle there is facing up, and you can just run the knife through it, and it should come right off. And then you grab it from the other end and just do the same thing going the other way. The thing with this cut right here is it has these kind of sinew bits running through it, so it starts like that at that end, but it ends up being considerably thicker at the other end, so it's not great for dry roasting. You need to put it into a pot roast for a long time to break that down. One side of it is very nice and tender, but the other side is not. And to figure out which that is, you turn it over. It's kind of difficult to see on film, but if you look at the sirloin tip, this is the top. The right-hand side is actually quite tender. It's good for stir-fry meat. Alright, but we're going to turn this on to roast. So to make a roast here, we're just going to tie it up real quick. Just kind of keep it even while it's cooking. Alright, pass me that larger knife, please. And then what you want to do with the roast is just square off the ends. And this will prevent the ends from burning while the inside is getting to medium.
Well, that tri-tip is really nice right now. That's really good. What do we call this piece again?
The eye of round.
The eye of round roast. Now you'll notice the grains of this piece of meat run lengthwise. And what I like to do with this one is I like to leave it whole, and I actually cut it up for like a stir fry or for a curry or somewhere, so I can cut across the grain, which is, if you're going to do that type of a dish, you really want cross-cut grain meat. Whereas, if you're going to cook a steak you want to have the grain cut right across like this, so you can see the end grains here. So they got some lovely steaks here, lots of steaks. This is the sort of the stew meat here, ready to go. Most of it's trimmed up pretty nice. A little bit of fat left on it, which is fine. When it goes in the frying pan, it'll cook off. And this would be my stir-fry loin here and a roast here. So maybe on the other side we might do a couple more roasts, or maybe we'll do some shoulder roast with that front.
Yeah. So what you want to do is just find the join between what they call the shoulder arm bone and the shank bone, and you want to run your knife around it. It'll be kind of like upside down.
A little smiley face.
Yeah, a little smiley face, yeah, for sure. You need to kind of just figure out where that is, and as soon as you found it, you kind of drag your knife in there, kind of work it open a little bit, and you drag it to the edge of the table, and you give it a good crack.
So I learned this today. This was great.
Yeah.
My new trick.
Once that's opened up, the whole thing should come apart.
Nice.
What do you normally do with this?
I just bone the whole thing out generally.
Just keep it as one whole
Yeah.
piece. Yeah. It's this elbow thing. It's a pain because it comes right up. So you got to get the knife in and then out and then back up.
And, yeah,
It's a pain.
totally.
Yeah.
So this one here, like this again, we could if we had a bandsaw, we could button this up and do lots of vocal shanks. But really, I like a little bit of burger in my freezer, so I'm just going to pull this out, throw it in the burger pile.
Yeah. All right.
So what's next here?
So next, we can actually see we've got two fairly distinct pieces of the shoulder. The blade is here, and it's actually, the blade is defined on the outside by the lines in the sinew that are actually they're triangular, just like the shoulder blade. And if you kind of poke on the meat, you can see where it runs into the top of the shoulder arm bone, which is the bone that runs between the shank and the shoulder blade. And this kind of fatty deposit here is where the joint is. So what you want to do is you want to get your knife right through the joint. So I can feel it with my finger there. So I can literally just put the knife right in. And then the knife will run right down to the table like that.
That's awesome.
Turn it around. And then the whole thing splits into two. I really got to sharpen this knife.
still. I can take my cleaver and knock the top off it so I can get at that marrow, so it'll come out when I slow roast it. Or I can leave it in and put it in some water and it'll work its way out as well. But yeah, that's a nice roast, and we're going to bundle that one up, and
For sure.
it's one of my favorites.
And then this guy right here, we're just going to clean up this little flap off the top. This is what would be the flat iron if it was a beef. We're just going to clean it up as best we can. And you see, you don't take off stuff like this. I mean, it's fine for eating, but it doesn't look super attractive having these glands in there. And then tidy up on this side. Okay. Turn it over, you've got another nice roast. Now, with this one, it's fairly key. You want to tie it up because it's such an uneven piece of meat that you want to keep it together and as compact as you can during cooking. Otherwise, some parts will burn and some parts will be able to cook.
It starts with the belly and then basically blaze off all the rib meat and, of course, the main loin on the deer. This is really great because in the field, you're going to want to hang this meat to cool it, and you've got this one nice big piece you can hang up on a tree, as opposed to having the loin and the neck and the flank all in 3 separate pieces. So it makes it easier to deal with, and it also, so now we can deal with it here. So what do we do next year?
Well, first thing we're going to do is we're just going to take the rib plate off from the back strap and separate it all. Now, I don't know, Dylan, do you like to leave a little bit of tail on it, or do you like to leave a little bit like that?
Yeah, I don't mind leaving a little bit of tail, because it usually has a bit of fat there, which is nice when I cook the fat.
Yeah, so you want to leave about an inch, maybe. And just run your knife right down there. We're just going to come straight across the neck.
Eventually, we're going to get up to the neck here. Somewhere around here, it goes from the loin into the neck.
Yeah. Now, do you want to keep the neck on?
We'll pop the neck off and just pop it grinding, or I'll stew it.
That's good, okay.
Yeah, I got a couple of nice neck roasts already from the top part, so this is a good example of looking at it. So we've got some bloodshot meat because we're up where the bullet went through. So I'm just going to trim out that bloodshot meat.
Just cutting the back strap up there. So that's what you're kind of left with. So that's like your little strip loin steak right there. Actually looks beautiful.
It's beautiful, doesn't it?
That's like, yeah, it's definitely the nicest deal. And I have done. You want just 3, eh? Just
yeah, maybe 4. Maybe we do 4 there. I mean, I usually cook for two, right? So
yeah, that's nice.
If I'm cooking for 4, I can always take out more.
So this is what would be your ribeye, something like that, So you've got like the rib cap there, the rib there, and then the tail.
That's a nice piece of meat.
Ribeye.
We've basically taken care of one half of the deer, and now we're just down to the loins. These guys here, of course, Patrick showed us how to take them off the inside. You'll see there's a bunch of fat on them and stuff, which we're going to trim off. Yeah. The one thing I got to tell you, I have a habit of doing this. I sort of like save the best parts of my deer for last, and I find that I've got 2 years worth of tenderloins from elk and deer right at the bottom of my freezer. Eat these right away because they're wonderful. Share them with your favorite people in your life, and because they're probably the most tender piece of the animal.
They're also the most susceptible to freezer burn too.
Exactly. So that's exactly it. So go ahead and get them cleaned up and eat them right away. So I might not even throw these in the freezers just so I make sure that I eat them right away.
Yeah. Yeah, these will really dry out if they're left in the freezer too long.
Yeah. Here that we want to do is make sure that we wrapped up our meat so we can put it in the freezer from here. So how we do it is we I buy butcher's paper, and it's got wax on the inside. It's designed for being put in the freezer. You can hang out at a butcher shop. Got these extra little sheets that will help add another layer. They help prevent freezer burn. Just wrap that around like that. And the key is to start here in the corner of your butcher's paper and roll it up towards the center of the paper. What I'm trying to do is squeeze out any air that's in here. And then once I get to about 2/3 of the way up, or just over half, I'll fold the ends in. And I've got sort of double paper on each side. I'm going to roll up to the top here. And just like a Christmas present, got a sticker here with that. And then I'm just going to mark it. So this is Whitetail 2016. This is a loin roast. And it's goodness. Right on. So that wraps up this video. Hope you guys learned a little bit about breaking down your animal and getting